Welcome to CityWise. I'm your host, Tiana Stevens. CityWise is produced by the City of Rochester to shine a spotlight on city living at its best. Well, in an effort to strengthen community policing, Mayor Lovely Warren announced last December that the Rochester Police Department would implement a body-worn camera program. Since that announcement, the RPD has been busy doing research and testing various camera types. Police Chief Michael Simonelli and Captain Kevin Costello join us now to give us an update on the program and information on how you can learn more about the program. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Why is it so important that officers are equipped with body-worn cameras?
Well, ultimately, we think the most important thing about it is trust. That by increasing transparency, we increase trust. This will help us achieve that goal. It also helps us, from an evidentiary point of view, to gather evidence so that when arrests are made and cases go to court, there's sometimes more definitive evidence available.
Sure.
But ultimately, we think this is one tool that we can use to help build trust.
And Captain Costello, tell us about the timeline. We're sort of nearing the end. It's been about a year in. Where are we at in the timeline and what's happened previously?
Well, the mayors made the announcement in December, as you said, but before that we had an idea that there was an importance in this program. The mayor had identified it as an important part of that trust and the building relationships. So we started some basic research into the topic, and that's continued along. We just are in the midst of our request for proposal process, that is selecting the technology.
Okay.
We plan to have that in place or a vendor chosen by the beginning of the year, and there will be some steps to take there to implement the technology. Right now we're in the process of writing the policy that will govern the use of the cameras and gathering information necessary for that. And our goal and we're moving forward nicely, we plan to have some of the cameras out by the end of the fiscal year, June of 2016. So we'll start seeing those cameras out there. The final solution for the cameras will be in place. But along the way, there are a lot of steps as far as setting up the environment and the policy.
Sure, and you brought some examples of body-worn cameras with you. Can you talk to us a little bit about those and maybe explain if there's differences between the equipment?
There are significant differences between the cameras. They all do a little bit of things a little bit differently. So we're testing, these are some of the cameras that we have actually, we've looked at the vendors have come in and demonstrated their cameras, and these cameras are being used by officers in a very small limited test just to test the cameras themselves. So you can see very easily there's one camera which is a larger version that we have, and it offers a lot of opportunities to viewing on the camera itself. That's one, and really at the other end of the spectrum is a very small camera, very easy to operate, small, low weight for the officers, but you can see there's far fewer buttons. And in the middle there's cameras which have a screen on the outside so people know that it's working, movable lens, so shorter officers, taller officers can adjust it. And a variety of different ways to notify people that the camera's working. And those are just really some general ideas of what's going on with the technology.
Sure. What are some of the benefits of body-worn cameras along with trust? Well,
again, we think that it will provide more definitive information about events that will help us with investigations. So we think that's a benefit. We think there's also a training benefit. In addition to building trust, that we're going to be able to see how things develop and maybe improve our policies, protocols, and training, because we'll have more information on how we're doing and how we might be able to do better.
And now you are taking the apparatus, and Chief, you yourself are going out into the community to educate people about body-worn cameras. How does that work?
Well, it's very important to us. Just as we did the reorganization, we did go out to the community and we gathered quite a bit of input on what the community wanted, what it was looking for, and we're really doing the same thing with the body-worn camera program. We want to get as much input from the community and from our officers internally as possible as to what they're looking for, what would work best. So on a number of these important policy points, we are making an effort to have these meetings. We're having one in each section of the city. And I know that the schedule will be put out there, and we're looking for whatever input people want to give us on a number of points.
Have you heard, just out in the streets, questions from residents?
Sure. We've received input since this was announced publicly, and even before that. just concerns or excitement about the topic, what people want to see from it. They've read the same stuff that we have. They've done their own research, and they bring some really interesting points to the conversation that make us ask the additional questions. So we're getting that pretty regularly from either community meetings or people getting in touch with us directly.
What are some of those specific concerns or questions that you hear often?
Well, I would say the concerns really are almost the same topic area that people are really interested in. That's just, how does it impact my privacy? People really like the idea of the cameras, the transparency, the trust, and understanding of what happened, because it's really just another piece of what occurred in an incident. And people get a feeling they can see an independent look at it. They really like that. But when you think of it in an individual basis, people start thinking, well, who can see the video of me? I mean, who has the right to see that? How long is that kept? Those are big questions for people. When you think it in big, it makes sense in one area, and then you think of yourself as an individual, they bring up those issues. How do we address that? How long do we keep it, and how do we use things? That's kind of the common theme.
So how will the community input meetings go? Will there be a presentation or breakout sessions?
It'll be a combination of both. We plan on presenting some basic information. We want people to understand, and we want to manage expectations because there are limitations to the technology. We want to make sure that people that come to these meetings will have a basic understanding of what the technology can and cannot do, give them some basic idea of how these cameras are going to be deployed. But then what we've done is we've, based on the input we've received, we've divided it up into some major topic areas, which are mainly the ones that Captain Costello just mentioned, and there will be breakout sessions so people will be able to go to various different locations in the meeting and express their views on different points. We also plan on bringing some of the cameras like we did now, and we're going to actually have officers that are using and testing the cameras in the field demonstrate how they work. So it'll be a little bit of a hands-on and demonstration, as well as an opportunity to express views on what the ultimate policy should look like.
Now, can anyone attend any of the meetings, or do they have to live in that particular section?
No, we really, any meeting at all people can go to. If it's more convenient based on date and time to go to one outside your section, that's fine. We want to get as many people. We want to go physically to each section to give everybody an opportunity, but people are welcome at any meeting.
Okay. And now previously City Council had done an online survey to start gathering input. How has that helped you in shaping the community meetings?
Well, it helped us in a couple ways. First of all, it verified and corroborated there's very, very broad support in the community for the body camera program. And it also indicated to us, based on the responses to the council survey, that many people in the community believe that this was worth spending tax dollars on. Now, this is an expensive program. We were fortunate enough to get a grant, which is going to cover a significant portion of the cost, but this is a very costly proposition, and that's why we are going very carefully, methodically, and deliberately so that we can give the city taxpayers the best benefit for the money they're going to spend.
And like with the reorganization, there was a web page where people that maybe they couldn't attend a meeting, they had an opportunity to submit questions or look at frequently asked questions online. Is that something that's in the works?
Yes, we plan to have that website up right around the start of the meeting so that we can have a place where people can go, enter their information, and get some feedback, and we can really collect it, really look at it, and really use it as part of our policy development process.
And Chief, you said next summer of 2016 is when we could start to see cameras on officers. How does the training schedule look for the force?
Well, what we'll do, we'll have to decide on the cameras, and then based on the technology and the system and the software and everything has to be done, we'll come up with a schedule, and every officer that's going to be assigned a camera will have to go through a training program. It will realistically have to be phased in. We plan on equipping approximately 480 officers with cameras. That's a lot of officers are going to have to learn the technology, how to use it. So we'll come up with a schedule once we're ready and phase in, by sending officers through the training, and then when they're done with the training, they'll start using their cameras.
And one piece to add to that is that's the training for the officers. We anticipate we're having these sessions now to gather some input. We expect as we get closer and we have an idea of what our policy is, the technology, is to have some informational meetings for the public and put
Sure.
information out so
Right.
people are also trained in their expectations as well.
Okay. What's the feedback been from officers so far, maybe the officers that are testing the devices?
Yeah, so as part of the selection process, we actually have 10 officers from the patrol sections who are part of the selection process. They've been very involved in asking questions of the vendors and working with them on the street. They have much the same questions that the public does. They have the privacy questions, but they're really looking at a functional. Does this really work for me? And they're trying to find the best piece of equipment that fits in with their daily work environment. So they're really focused on that piece. How does it work for me? How do I use it in a case? How do I get that information to the district attorney's office? It's been a very important part of our selection. So they've been excited about it from that perspective.
Do each of the cameras kind of work the same? Is there an operator looking at a live feed, or how does that work?
None of the cameras we have are a live feed approach. They film onto the camera, and then from the camera they go through software into a camera environment. I look at it as like a digital property clerk where we store the information, and they all do it a little bit differently. They all use some sort of different software to get there, and that makes it difficult to select. That's why our request for proposal is the best way to do it. We can look at all the different things and kind of compare them together and pick what really fits for our community, our officers, and our needs. And so that is part of the selection process, and they're just all a little different.
Now, have you traveled to other cities or met with other departments to see what their best practices are?
Yeah, certainly. There's a lot of literature on that. We've called and spoke to people. Some of our vendors are in touch with other departments. I've traveled to another department and spoke with them about how they did it. I'm actually going to kind of a conference, a group of people talking about this whole topic in the coming weeks. So that's kind of an ongoing part of it. And the chief spoke about the grant. That's part of the grant as well. As part of that, we're with a group of other cities of our size, all going through this same project. And a great part of that whole grant is that we're required, and almost puts us in a place to constantly interact with those agencies and basically use best practices.
Are you able to say how many other cities of our size or how many other police departments across the nation use body-worn cameras?
I don't have that information specifically. I can tell you that most of the departments in prior years that have implemented body cameras have tended to be smaller departments. Now, really in the last year, 2 years, we're seeing more departments the size of Rochester and even larger that are implementing a body camera program. Some larger departments like New York are doing a pilot program, but it's very, very limited with the number of cameras. We are kind of doing our due diligence up front. We spent a lot of time researching so we can come up with the best solution. So while we will be phasing them in, our program will result in 480 Rochester police officers having cameras.
Okay, and that's out of how many?
Well, we have a total of about 725.
Okay.
So, there are certain categories, administrative personnel, some investigative personnel, some training personnel, people that, the general way we looked at it is people that are going to be interacting with the public on a regular basis, especially in uniform. They will have body cameras. So all our patrol officers assigned to the various sections, our tactical unit, our traffic enforcement unit, units like this, our K9 unit, even our mounted unit is going to be equipped with body cameras.
Okay, and we're about 6 months into the reorganization with the 5 sections. How's that going so far?
Well, I would say so far so good. We're going through a learning process. We've done things very differently for the last 10 years. I would say overall the input that we're getting both internally from our officers and command staff and externally from the community overall has tended to be positive. With any major change and transition like this, we have hit some bumps in the road that we're managing and we're learning. So it's a constant process to try to do this better. But I would say bottom line for us right now, we're encouraged by where we are.
And finally, anything else that the public can do to help with community policing, anything they can do to volunteer?
Sure. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities. We have groups in each section, police citizen interaction committees. If they're interested, they can go on our website or call the chief's office at 428-7033, and we can direct them to their section captain. So going to meetings, neighborhood watch, court watch. We are doing a lot of things interacting with the community. There's a lot of structures in place, a lot of groups in place that would always welcome new volunteers, and so we encourage anybody that's interested in working with us to contact us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Again, for more information about the RPD's body-worn camera program or the community input sessions, you can call 311 or 428-5990 if you're calling from outside of the city.